Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into something truly fascinating and thought-provoking: the dead zone, life in no man's land. This is not just another story about war or boundaries. It's a haunting exploration of what happens in places that have been abandoned by humanity, where nature, history, and time seem to collide in strange silence. The dead zone is that eerie space between conflict and peace, between life and death, between what once was and what's left behind. It's a place that reminds us of how fragile human existence can be, and how easily civilization can vanish when we draw lines that even we dare not cross. When we think of the term no man's land, it immediately brings to mind images of war, desolation, and destruction. It's the strip of earth between opposing forces, a space no one claims, no one owns, and no one dares to enter. But beyond the historical or military meaning, the dead zone explores this idea in a broader, almost philosophical sense. It's about the forgotten places of the world, where time stops and life hangs in suspension. The idea of life in such a place is both terrifying and intriguing. What kind of existence can survive where nothing should live? What does it mean to be alive in a place where life itself seems to have retreated? The documentary, or story of the Dead Zone, captures these questions beautifully. It transports us to environments that seem alien yet eerily familiar, places where nature reclaims what humanity once built, where the echoes of the past still linger in the soil, and where silence speaks louder than any human voice. One of the most striking aspects of this exploration is how it challenges our perception of what it means to inhabit a landscape. We're used to seeing life flourish in comfort, but here we see it adapting in adversity, twisting and reshaping itself to survive in impossible conditions. The concept of the dead zone can be linked to places like Chernobyl, the Korean demilitarized zone, or abandoned war zones scattered around the globe. These are areas where human activity has been erased or forbidden, but paradoxically, life has found a way to return. In the absence of people, nature has stepped back in, sometimes in unexpected ways. Trees grow through the skeletons of buildings, animals roam freely where soldiers once marched, and the air, though heavy with history, breathes a strange kind of peace. It's a stark reminder that life is resilient, that even in places of tragedy, the natural world continues its cycle of renewal. What's truly powerful about the dead zone is how it forces us to reflect on human impact. Every abandoned battlefield or contaminated zone is a monument to human decisions, to conflict, to mistakes that scar the earth long after the fighting stops. The land remembers even when we forget. The rusting tanks, the decaying bunkers, the empty villages all tell stories of lives disrupted, of moments frozen in time. The documentary doesn't just show us these places as ruins, it shows them as living memorials. The soil holds memories, the air whispers history, and even silence feels alive with meaning. When you watch the dead zone, you begin to understand how time behaves differently in such spaces. It doesn't flow forward in the usual sense. Instead, it loops and lingers, caught between decay and renewal. You can almost feel the weight of absence, the presence of things unseen. It's haunting, but also strangely beautiful. There's a certain poetry in decay, a quiet dignity in the way the world continues even after humanity steps away. One of the most fascinating elements explored is the relationship between humans and the environment in these deserted places. When people leave, the natural order begins to reassert itself. Forests creep into cities, wildlife returns, and the land starts to heal, though in its own mysterious way. But this healing isn't simple or pure. It's layered with radiation, rust, and residue. It's life, but altered. The animals in Chernobyl, for example, have adapted to conditions that should be lethal, yet they thrive. It makes us question our understanding of resilience, mutation, and survival. The dead zone becomes a symbol of how life can persist even in the shadow of catastrophe. Another aspect the film or story delves into is human curiosity. Even though these zones are forbidden, people are drawn to them. Scientists, explorers, and photographers risk everything to step into these desolate spaces, not just out of fascination, but out of a need to understand. There's something magnetic about ruins. They pull us in because they show us the fragility of what we build and the permanence of what we destroy. The dead zone becomes not just a place but an idea, a reflection of our fears and obsessions with mortality, decay, and rebirth. There's also a deeper psychological element at play. The dead zone can be interpreted as a mirror to the human mind, the empty, scarred parts of our consciousness that we avoid confronting. Just as physical no-man's lands exist between nations, emotional no-man's lands exist within us. These are the spaces we seal off after trauma, where we refuse to go because of the pain that lies buried there. The film subtly connects these ideas, showing that both landscapes, external and internal, are marked by the same silence, the same tension between memory and forgetting. In one sense, the dead zone is a meditation on isolation. It asks what it means to live cut off from the rest of the world, to exist in a place that has been abandoned. In another sense, it's about the unexpected forms of community that emerge in such spaces. There are still people who live on the edges of these dead zones, hermits, exiles, or those who simply never left. Their stories are haunting. They live surrounded by ghosts of the past, yet they continue their daily lives, tending gardens, feeding animals, surviving. To them, this dead land is home. It's a reminder that human beings can find belonging even in desolation. The visual imagery of the dead zone is unforgettable. The landscapes are both breathtaking and terrifying: wild forests overtaking crumbling structures, rivers running through empty towns, the wind moving through shattered windows. There's a surreal beauty in these images, a quiet reminder that the world doesn't stop when we do. The cinematography captures both the decay and the rebirth, the tragedy and the hope. Each frame feels like a meditation on time itself. As we move deeper into the exploration, one of the most powerful realizations emerges. These no-man's lands are not truly lifeless. They are changing ecosystems, evolving in ways that defy human logic. The absence of human interference allows natural processes to unfold freely, creating a strange kind of paradise within the ruins of human failure. It's ironic that by destroying parts of the world, we sometimes give nature space to thrive again. This contradiction lies at the heart of the dead zone, that out of destruction, a different kind of life begins. The documentary also highlights the moral and ethical questions surrounding these places. Should we reclaim them? Should we leave them untouched as warnings? Can they ever truly be safe again? These questions don't have simple answers. They touch on the broader issues of how we coexist with the planet and what responsibilities we have toward the environments we've damaged. The dead zone becomes a cautionary tale, urging us to think about the consequences of our actions and the marks we leave behind. But beyond the warning, there's also a strange sense of hope woven throughout. The resilience of nature, the persistence of life, and the adaptability of living organisms remind us that renewal is always possible. Even when everything seems lost, the earth finds a way to begin again. It's both humbling and inspiring. The dead zone may be filled with reminders of death and destruction, but it also whispers a quiet promise of rebirth. Watching the dead zone, you can't help but feel a deep sense of reflection about humanity's place in the world. We like to think we're in control, that we shape the planet according to our will. But these forgotten landscapes tell a different story, one where the earth ultimately reclaims everything. Buildings crumble, borders fade, and time erases all traces of ownership. What remains is nature's slow, steady rhythm, indifferent to human pride. There's something deeply spiritual about this idea. It speaks to the impermanence of human achievement and the endurance of the natural world. The dead zone becomes almost a sacred space, where the lessons of history, ecology, and existence intertwine. It's a reminder that our wars, our conflicts, and our constructions are temporary, but the earth endures. In the end, the dead zone, life in no man's land, isn't just a film about desolate landscapes. It's a reflection on what happens when humanity withdraws, when our noise fades and silence takes over. It's about the beauty and terror of emptiness, the strange vitality of decay, and the timeless power of nature. It asks us to look at the spaces we've ruined and reconsider what they tell us about who we are. It also challenges the way we see progress. We often associate progress with building, expansion, and occupation. But the dead zone suggests that sometimes progress means stepping back, allowing the world to heal in our absence. The lesson is subtle but profound. The planet doesn't need us to survive, but we need it. And when we push it too far, we create dead zones not just in geography, but in spirit. The silence that fills these landscapes isn't empty, it's full of meaning. Every rusted structure, every cracked wall, every tree growing through concrete tells a story of resilience. It's a kind of quiet resistance, a reminder that life doesn't end easily. There's a haunting beauty in seeing a flower bloom in a place where it shouldn't, or hearing birdsong echo through an abandoned city. These moments redefine what life means and how it persists. By the time the exploration ends, you're left with a feeling that's hard to describe, a mix of sadness, awe, and contemplation. The dead zone stays with you because it's not just about places, it's about us. It shows how our choices carve wounds into the world and how those wounds, over time, become lessons written in the landscape. So, as we leave the dead zone behind, we carry its message with us, that life, no matter how scarred or broken, continues. That silence can speak louder than war, and that even in the most forgotten corners of the world, the pulse of existence never truly stops. It's a story of endings and beginnings, of ruins and renewal, of what it means to live in the shadow of our own history. And perhaps that's the greatest truth the dead zone reveals, that even in no man's land, life endures.